Hey everybody, welcome back to World History. So this is section 4, the glory that was Greece. So go ahead and get your notes out and let's get started. But first, before I move on, I want to talk about this wonderful image of the Parthenon in modern day, where you can actually see it lit up like it would have been by ancient fires in the modern day. Looks pretty cool. So, got a lot of philosophy to talk about today. As you can see from all these quotes, that's something we'll be focusing on with the rise of Greek philosophers. Now, they challenged the idea that the gods were in control of the universe, and we believe and we call them the lovers of wisdom. Now, they massively advanced things in math, music, science, and logic under the ideas of rational thinking through reason and observation. Essentially, they believed that these things weren't being caused by the gods. These things were things that happen naturally. There's a logical explanation for all of these things. So, ethics and morals, it's kind of blurry. I don't think I'm going to spend too much time on this, but essentially, what it's saying is that morals are a personal behavior, while ethics are more grandly philosophical, meaning that they're kind of just there. A moral is a lesson that we use to learn about a single principle of right versus wrong, versus an ethic, which is a guiding principle that affects your criteria to determining what is right and wrong. So we tend to think about this sort of thing with regards to the values and beliefs that have been taught to us by our parents, culture, and religion. Now, a system of ethics is usually determined by examining morals and choosing based on reason. So, morals versus ethics, we have the sophists. They questioned accepted ideas, they practiced rhetoric or the art of skillful speaking, and they undermined the values of Greek society because they just didn't believe in them and they didn't think they were valid things to be practicing. Rhetoric, again, is the ability in each case to see all the available means of persuasion, as said by Aristotle. As Plato went on record saying, rhetoric is the art of ruling the minds of men. Now, here are some more pictures of some various philosophers we're going to talk about. We're going to talk a lot about Socrates today, who Plato described as the wisest, justest, and best of all I've ever known. Now, he established a method by posing a series of questions and examining implications of the answer in order to discover more. He encouraged people to seek truth and self-knowledge and made sure that people just learned more about that sort of thing. His death, on the other hand, he was tried as a heretic and found guilty. He was threatened to accept values and traditions if and go against his teachings. He refused. There was a jury of 501 people. They found him guilty and forced him to ingest hemlock, which is a very poisonous plant, which killed him. Now, Plato, who we're going to talk about now, was actually a student of Socrates. He disliked democracies and established something known as the Academy, which emphasized the importance of reason and unchanging ethical values, perfect beauty, and organizing society. And he wrote a book titled The Republic. He also described the ideal state and how government should work, and the state should regulate every aspect of its citizens' lives to provide for their best interests. Now, most people don't agree with this notion anymore, but a lot of people respected his opinion nonetheless. He believed that workers, soldiers, and philosophers should all be equal, regardless of their social standing, and that some women were superior to some men. Let that sink in for a moment. Especially in Athens, where most of this is taking place, women were viewed as inferior. Yet one of their most famous philosophers is saying, no, women can be superior to some men. That's a huge thing to say. Plato wrote in The Republic, the object of education is to teach us to love what is beautiful. All right, moving on to Aristotle. He was a single, strong, and virtuous leader, was best. That was his belief that we should all be under like a king or something. He described democracy as that of mob rule. and using something the golden means with with a lot of extremes. And there was a reason being the guiding force for learning. He set up a school for the study of all branches of knowledge. This influenced European universities and is considered to be one of the first, you could say, universities in the world. All right. Let's move on and talk about some architecture and art. As you can see, all these different types of pillars. So their architecture reflected a lot, especially in terms of perfect balance and reflecting harmony and order of the universe. Again, bringing back up the Parthenon, a temple dedicated to the goddess Athena due to her being the patron god of Athens. All the different columns in there as well represented a lot of the style of the era. Now, sculpture and paintings, they emphasized natural poses, and they tried to show individuals in their most perfect and graceful forms. Now, again, here's how they were depicted in Egypt, but in Greece, they were depicted much more realistically. When it comes down to it, Greece is also really known for poetry and drama as well, having a number of amphitheaters that we can study as well. Classical style, which was elegant and balanced. These began with the epics of Homer, the Iliad and the Odyssey, if you remember all the way back in section 1 when I talked about those. And they developed Greek drama, which evolved out of religious festivals. In Athens, those were typically festivals that were used to celebrate the god Dionysus. They were performed outside with little to no secrecy, and each had elaborate costumes and masks as pictured here. Now, something to note about this, in Greek theater, at least in the ancient world, all of the female characters were also played by men, typically younger boys who haven't hit puberty and the voices hadn't dropped yet. It was viewed as inappropriate for a woman to be on stage and performing in front of all the men. So we've Aeschylus, Sophocles, and Euripides, who developed the Greek tragedies. These were stories of human suffering that usually ended in disaster. They were to stir up and relieve pity and fear amongst the people. Then you have Aristophanes on the other side, who gave us comedy, or humorous plays that mocked people or customs, especially politicians. These Greek comedies love to go after their politicians. They criticize society massively as well. Here's some examples of some masks that would have been worn in the tragedies, and a Greek vase depicting one of Aristophanes' comedies. History. We can thank the Greeks for history, especially this one man named Herodotus, who is considered to be the father of history. Now, it's beyond names and retelling, simply. He wrote a lot of things down about the Persian War and gathered them all into one place for us in something known as history or inquiry in Greek. Now, he was very critical of sources, and he did a lot of research on the topic, which allowed for history to massively grow as a civilization. So you also have Thucydides, who was an Athenian. He did the same thing that Herodotus did with the Persian Wars with the Peloponnesian War. He was fair to both sides. He gave each them accurate retellings and didn't show any bias as to which side he would have been a part of. He massively avoided that in his writings. Here's a statue of him today. All right, that is it for notes for today. I will see you all next time. Bye, everyone.